Opposition leader Mark Golding has made a proposal for Jamaica's income tax threshold to be doubled to $3 million. This was done at the PNP's 85th National Conference recently. But is it feasible? Financial analyst Dennis Chung joins us to weigh in. Good morning, Dennis. Welcome again to Smile Jamaica.
Hi, Dana. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
I'm actually in the car, so excuse that.
So before we even get into it, when we say income tax threshold, let's clarify that before we get into anything else. What's income tax threshold?
So the income tax threshold is the amount that you actually do not pay tax on. So the idea behind it is that there's a certain amount of money that is given as a minimum to say that, listen, well, you know, if you're earning, currently is $1.5 million. If you're earning $1.5 million or less, then you do not have to pay tax on it, because the government wants to ensure that everyone has, enough money to live on. So increasing it to $3 million means that on the first $3 million that you earn, so if you earn $10 million, you'll pay 0% on $3 million, and then you pay tax on the additional $7 million at the various rates. So the threshold is really just the amount of income, the first amount of income that you do not pay tax on.
Yeah. Dennis, what are some of the considerations a government would have to make to increase the threshold for this particular instance from $1.5 million to $3 million?
Well, it's really cost of living. So, I mean, you want to ensure that people can buy a certain amount of things to live. So if at $1.5 million 3 years ago or 4 years ago, you could buy, say, 100 units of something, but because of inflation, you can only buy 50 units of it, then it means that your real income is half of what it was 4 years ago. And you want to ensure that people maintain the same level of real income. So it's really inflation and what the cost of living is, how people use to determine that.
Yeah. I think one of the things also will be the cost implications to government. Because if we, correct me if I'm wrong, if you raise the threshold based on the salary scales that we have, would it mean that the government would be collecting less income tax?
It means that the government will be collecting less income tax, but it's not a straightforward thing. So you don't lose all the tax that you actually forego, because remember that people will be spending more money. Right. And it means that there's GCT that they collect on the expenditure. So you get an additional 1.5 million in your pocket, but you also will be paying tax on the spending of that 1.5 additional. In addition to that, the more money that is in the private sector or the economy, it means that there's a greater multiplier effect. So what the multiplier effect means is that $1.5 million in terms of in the economy might actually turn out to be about $3 or $4 million, because money, when you spend it once, it actually goes to someone else and then they spend it again. So that's how the multiplier effect is. So $1.5 million for the government, who actually keeps money and spends it one time, for example, to pay off debt, might be $4 million in the economy. So it's not a straight one-to-one computation, but still the government will be losing direct money that's coming in. So they have to do the right computations and say, well, what is the effect going to be on us? Because at the same time, remember that the government also has to provide roads and all of those things. And me getting an additional 1.5 million in my pocket might be less than me getting additional health services or additional roads or additional public transportation. So you have to look at that value comparison.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you've been able to do any number crunching since the recommendation was made on Sunday by the opposition leader. But when you reflect on the finance minister's presentation around our budget, how feasible is doubling the current income tax threshold as being proposed?
Well, Capri had done a study that recommended it go to 2.2 million. And I know that the government was already looking at increasing it. As to what the amount is, 3 million right now, you know, I haven't done any number crunching, but anecdotally, I wouldn't go straight to doubling it. I would maybe take the recommendation from Capri and first do the 2.2 million, because at the same time, remember, we still want our roads improved. We still want to get improved health services. Those are some of the things that we have to access. So just going immediately to $3 million, I mean, it's a good idea to talk about it. And we're in a very good position today, because in the 1990s, when taxes going up every year and we're running fiscal deficits, we couldn't even have this conversation. I agree that we need to look at it, and the opposition leader is right. But as to the amount, I don't know that I would just step it immediately up to 3 million, given that Capri had made a recommendation of 2.2 and they would have done the research.
So it's something then that you're thinking probably move to 2.2, then with the ultimate intention of getting to say $3 million, maybe over a 2-3 year period?
Well, yeah, over 2 years or even a year and a half. And then what I would say is then index it. Once you get to the $3 million or the adjustment you think, you know, that it should be at to take into account real wages, index it. So then the threshold moves along with inflation. So you don't have to go back every year and make the change. Just index it. So when inflation moves a certain amount, the threshold also moves that amount also.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, it's great talking to you, Dennis. Thank you so much for speaking to us about that this morning. Right. Financial analyst, Dennis Chung.
And right after the break, we'll speak with a blind farmer. Stay with us on Smile.